Yesterday it was quite a topic, and many people reacted and responded as we were dissecting the whole matter of whether or not many of you believe that the announcement of the Prime Minister for Ms. Lou and Bob Marley to be given the National Icon Awards was sitting well with you. Many of you were in disagreement. Some of you did not have a problem with it. But there's one voice that I just needed to hear, and that is that of Professor Rupert Lewis on a matter like this. He is, as I've been telling you, Professor Emeritus of Political Thought at the University of the West Indies, Mona. And Professor Rupert Lewis suggests that Jamaica's next national hero should in fact come from the island's cultural icons, echoing the sentiments of many Jamaicans. He argues that cultural icons like Robert Nesta, Bob Marley, and poet Louise Bennett Coverley, also known as Miss Lou, have given Jamaica its identity and true sense of independence. We have with us this morning Professor Rupert Lewis as my very special guest. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, Richard B.
And how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
All right, glad to have you waking up this early to have a chat with us on air, Prof. We really appreciate it. You recently stated that our next national heroes should come from, and you mentioned Bob Marley and Miss Lou. Since then, I think the Prime Minister has now come out and said that he's contemplating making them national icons. That differs somewhat from your perspective now, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And I'd like to refer to a document that was commissioned by a former Prime Minister, Prime Minister Hugh Shearer, commissioned the great Jamaican writer Sylvia Wynter to develop the concept of the national hero. And I just want to read one sentence from this concept, because this frames our discussion of the proposal by our current Prime Minister, Andrew Holness. Sylvia Wynter said, "The trajectory of Jamaican history can be defined as the struggle of the majority of our people to transform ourselves from being the object of the history of other nations into the agent and creative subject of our own." End quote. Both Bob Marley and Miss Lou, through their work, made us into agents of our own. The agent made us an agent and creative subject of our own. In other words, we came into our own through their creative work, through their redefining of ourselves, of the Jamaican people, as people who were capable of transforming themselves, their country, and wherever they went in the world. Now, we have 7 national heroes.
Yes.
And these heroes represent different phases of Jamaican history. Nanny, the anti-slavery revolt, the Maroon revolt. Sam Sharp, anti-slavery. George William Gordon and Paul Bogle, the war of the peasants against injustice, for land, for freedom, for the right to do business on their own as small proprietors. We have the enormous movement led by Garvey in the early 20th century. And we have the individuals, Bustamante and Norman Manley, coming out of the 1938 war against the British and the war for a better life. Now, political independence did not really involve the Jamaican people in framing the Constitution. The British cut and paste these constitutions for all their territories in the Caribbean. And countries have had to make amendments to make the Constitution fit. So the Constitution is not simply a act of government. A Constitution has to involve the people. We are now in a process in the 21st century of participating in a constitutional process. But the question of our independence has a number of legs. One leg is the important way in which we see ourselves, how we see ourselves as agents, as people who are capable of remaking our world. And that is what Ms. Lou did by taking the Jamaican language and putting it on a pedestal when it had been derided, cursed, mocked, ridiculed. And that's the instrument that Bob Marley used, language, to create the music and to create a sense of ourselves. And all of our national heroes, all of them, are coming out of the African Jamaican process of self-acceptance, respect. And therefore, the argument that you should create a new set of law, a new law around national icons, ignores the fact that the 1969 law for national heroes and honors, that law creates a very good framework. And what subsequent prime ministers and leaders have done is to develop the institutions, National Heritage Trust, commissioned research, as they did with Sylvia Winter, as they did with Kamau Brathwaite on Sam Sharp, as many of us did work, Professor Robert Hill and others, myself included, on Garvey. There's work on, I started work on Bob Marley. Roger Stephens said there's somewhere in the region of 500 books. No other person in Jamaica, or very few people in the world, have been so documented and written about.
Yes.
We therefore have a framework
that can be utilized.
The Miss Lou and Bob Marley as national heroes, given the concept that I started out with, that Sylvia Winter so admirably expressed.
Understood clearly, Professor. Now, we know that many have received, say, an Order of Distinction or an Order of Jamaica, and then they move up the rank at a later stage to, say, the Order of Merit and so on. Do you believe that the Prime Minister's thought system may be to start off with this new honor, the national icon, and then maybe review going forward to an upgrade to national hero? And even that, would that sit well with you?
Well, I can't say what is in the Prime Minister's mind.
Right.
We have to go by what he says and how Cabinet is thinking, and he gives expression as the Prime Minister to that thinking. But when he announced on Heroes Day this new order of national icons, people immediately began feeling that the trajectory was not from the OM, which both Bob Marley and Miss Lou and others have, but to this new order of national icons. I think public sentiment in Jamaica and the diaspora is that in terms of the concept set out that I heard earlier, both Miss Lou and Bob Marley qualify for elevation to national hero status. But the important point here is that the people of Jamaica and the people in our diaspora must be in the forefront of discussions as to who they want to be elevated to that status. So, if Prime Minister Holness wants to follow up with his proposal for national discussion, then I am on board with him on that, because we have to be open We're in the process of, we continue, independence is not a one constitutional act. It's a process where our people, Jamaicans, have to grapple with our national symbols, the question of the individual who best represent the values that we want to carry forward. And related to that is our ability, through our confidence in self, to grapple with the enormous problems that we face on a daily basis. Yes. The connections between all of these aspects are important. And Prime Minister Holness has all of these things in his head. But we also, as a Jamaican people, have to share in the thinking and the proposals of matters which are of consequence to our daily lives.
Yes. You did speak to the issue earlier, but I still want us to, just for clarity, based on your thought, Professor Lewis, the works of Bob Marley and Miss Lou, frankly speaking, measure up to works done by our current national heroes in terms of their contribution to our nation or society, and we as a people.
Yes, there's an idea that is very gaining popularity. Jamaica, Caribbean, Brazil, US, we live in the afterlives of slavery. Slavery is not something that is in the past. It has shaped the very demographic characteristics of Jamaica, what the population is like, where people live. We live in the afterlife of slavery. That has been our defining experience, slavery and colonialism. And therefore, when we are looking at national heroes, as was the case with Sylvia Winter, you are talking about people moving from being objects, economic objects. As Natl said, we all come out of the plantation. So since we all come out of the plantation and have evolved, we have to create this nation which represents our interests and in which we are agents in making it what it can be for us. Mm-hmm. In that context, the individuals who have, through their work, carried out visionary work, and I remind our listeners that Bob Marley was not only about music. You take the One Love concert, you take the Peace concert, you take the bullet that he was wounded with, near-death experience. You're dealing with somebody who had the interest of this rock at heart and was able to simply not walk away from the problems he saw in the 70s with the tribal violence, but making a huge effort to bring together the warring factions led by Michael Manley and Edward Seaga, and to try to initiate peace in Jamaica. And using his creativity and his popularity as a base on which to take this action. You know, people need to reflect a lot on what thinking and what courage went into those actions and that determination.
So ideally, Professor, you basically see it as a slap in the face if this National Icon Award was given instead of a national hero. You would not be pleased at all.
No, I am very upset that this notion of a national icon should come in as what appears to be a substitute to the elevation of these two outstanding Jamaicans to the level of national heroes.
Okay, and you're calling for consultation right across Jamaica and even in the Jamaican diaspora, so that we can hear the voices,
including the Jamaican diaspora, because Jamaica is both the rock and its diaspora.
Yes.
So I would like, and the technology allows us to have immediate discussion on these matters as a basis for discussion on other national issues which impinge on us. Because the solutions to the problems that Jamaicans face lie primarily with a range of Jamaicans who have knowledge, expertise, interest, commitment. And the Jamaican political leadership needs to more systematically draw on the wealth of knowledge in dealing with the range of problems that we have.
Professor Rupert Lewis, it was so wonderful talking with you. I've learned a lot, and we thank you again for being a part of the program, and we definitely will stay in touch. Have a good day, Prof.
Have a good day to you and to your listeners. Thank you.
All right. Our pleasure.